The real story of the Knights Templar. Rise of the Red Cross. The year is 1119. The embers of the First Crusade still smolder across the Holy Land. Amid the blood-soaked stones of Jerusalem, a handful of weary but resolute knights kneel at the ruins of Solomon's Temple. These are not ordinary warriors, they are men who have forsaken wealth, title, and desire for something more, a sacred order sworn to protect pilgrims and guard holy relics. They are the First Templars, and from these scorched beginnings, a legend is born. Among them rises a man of uncommon conviction and unnerving calm, Jacques de Molay, a French noble-turned-mystic soldier, who believes their mission extends far beyond escorting the faithful. Under his guidance, the Knights Templar evolve into more than a military brotherhood, they become bankers, diplomats, spies, and seekers of divine truths. As their wealth grows, so does their reach. They establish commanderies from Aragon to Antioch, becoming the arteries through which gold, messages, and secrets flow. But not everyone within the order agrees with Jacques' vision. In the candlelit crypts of their Paris temple, a faction begins to rise, the Veiled Cross, a shadowy cabal that believes the true power of the Templars lies not in defending relics, but controlling them. While Jacques leads excavations beneath the Temple Mount in secret, searching not for treasure, but for something buried long before the Crusaders arrived, the Veiled Cross makes its first move, forging alliances with both Islamic mystics and disillusioned Christian scholars to uncover forbidden knowledge long hidden by the Church. Then, in the dead of night, one of the knights disappears. His blood is found near a sealed chamber newly unearthed beneath the temple ruins. The few words he left behind, scrawled in Latin on a tattered parchment, non orum, non ferrum, sed veritas. Not gold. Not iron. But truth. Thus begins the fracture. The Red Cross, once a symbol of piety and unity, now casts two shadows. One sworn to God. The other to revelation. And somewhere, beneath the stones of Jerusalem, something ancient stirs, something neither side is ready to face. The Gospel of Fire. The winds howl across the jagged Pyrenees, where a storm brews around the fortress of Montségur, a stronghold once belonging to the Cathars, now repurposed by the Templars for something far more dangerous than war. Hidden within its deepest vault, away from prying eyes and church inquisitors, lies a relic unlike any other, an ancient scroll, its ink faded, its language archaic, but unmistakably powerful. The scroll is said to be written in the hand of Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth himself. Unlike the canonical Gospels, it tells not of miracles or martyrdom, but of a message meant for all faiths. It speaks of unity through inner light, of a divine energy bound not to churches or prophets, but to human choice. A radical text. A threat. Jacques de Molay, now fully aware of its potential, dares not destroy it, nor reveal it. He entrusts it to a secret circle of Templars loyal only to him. They call it Evangelium Ignis, the Gospel of Fire. Because those who read it feel as though it burns through their very soul. One knight went blind after reading it. Another tried to set himself ablaze, claiming he saw paradise in the flames. But the Veiled Cross has already learned of its existence. Led by the cold and calculating Brother Matthew, the Grand Archivist, they begin negotiations with powerful Saracen mystics, those who see the scroll as confirmation of hidden teachings buried during the Caliphate's golden age. To Matthew, this gospel is not a spiritual revelation, it is a weapon. A way to control the fate of East and West alike. Meanwhile, far to the north, rumors seep into the corridors of Pope Clement V, whispered by spies in monastic robes, the Templars are harboring heresy. But what troubles the Pope more than the heresy, is the prophecy. For encoded within the Gospel of Fire lies a cryptic line, a new Messiah shall rise not by birthright, but by truth unearthed. To a dying church plagued by corruption and war, this isn't just dangerous, it is apocalyptic. If the prophecy is fulfilled, it could end centuries of papal authority. And so, quietly, the Vatican begins to plot. The scroll is no longer a relic. It is a fuse. And in the hands of the wrong soul, it could set fire to the entire Christian world. Blood in the Brotherhood. It begins with a silence too deep for prayer. In the cold stone sanctuary of the Templar Chapel in Paris, dawn breaks not with bells, but with screams. Brother Alaric, the order's esteemed treasurer, is found slumped against the altar, his blood pooled like sacrament beneath the crucifix. His eyes gouged, tongue severed, and hands clasped in mock prayer. Above him, carved into the wood of the altar with a dagger's precision, a haunting symbol, a black cross entwined with a serpent. The Brotherhood reels. Alaric was no mere functionary, he held the keys to the order's secret vaults, maps of hidden strongholds, and the coded ledgers of their international banking system. His death wasn't just sacrilegious, it was strategic. Suspicion spreads like a plague through the ranks. Behind high walls and thick tapestries, the Templars begin interrogating their own, one by one. Brothers whisper that the veiled cross has grown bolder, no longer content to manipulate. They are striking from within. Others believe Alaric uncovered something about the gospel of fire, something so dangerous it sealed his fate. Etienne, Jacques de Molay's young squire, watches his mentor closely. He sees the burden growing heavier on Jacques' shoulders, the long silences, the half-finished prayers, the way he locks his study and sleeps with a dagger beneath his pillow. Etienne begins to wonder, is Jacques protecting the truth, or being consumed by it? That night, Etienne discovers a hidden passage beneath the Paris commandery, a tunnel that leads to a chamber of scrolls and relics older than the Templars themselves. Among them, Alaric's last journal, torn at the edges, with a final entry written in shaky Latin: "He walks among us, robed in trust, cloaked in fire." The gospel has chosen, but not all who read it are redeemed. And then, the candle goes out. Footsteps in the darkness. Elsewhere, in Rome, Pope Clement receives an unsigned parchment. A simple message in blood-red ink: the gospel breathes. The snake coils. You are already too late. The killing of Alaric is no random act, it is a signal. The first strike in a holy war, not of swords, but of souls. And no knight, no matter how devout, will leave this conflict unchanged. A forbidden lineage. Years before the murder, before the gospel of fire was unearthed, before whispers of betrayal, there was love. Sir Guillaume de Rouen, a senior Templar knight, honorable, learned, and burdened by a quiet loneliness, met Layla bint Zara, a Moorish healer and scholar living near Acre. Her family traced its lineage back to the House of David, through an unbroken line of mystics and royal blood that had long been hunted by both Christian and Islamic rulers alike. Their connection was forbidden. Their conversations began with arguments over theology and medicine. But over nights spent debating beneath olive trees, their war-hardened exteriors softened into something neither could name aloud. In that hidden sanctuary between sword and scroll, Layla conceived a child, Armand. Knowing the danger his existence posed, Guillaume entrusted Layla and their newborn son to a secret Templar sanctuary in southern France, swearing an oath never to reveal them. Not even to Jacques de Molay. But time is a brutal judge. Now, years later, Armand is a youth of striking presence and uncanny intellect. He carries within him the legacy of three worlds: Christian, Jewish, and Islamic. And yet, he belongs to none. Raised in seclusion, tutored by former Cathars and Andalusian philosophers, he begins having visions, not dreams, but lucid flashes of places he's never been, people he's never met, and symbols carved in flame. One day, after a severe episode, Armand paints what he saw: a blood-red cross with a serpent winding around it, the very mark left at the scene of Alaric's murder. A mark he has never been shown. Etienne, now Armand's reluctant protector, begins to connect the pieces. This boy is not just the child of a forbidden love. He is the embodiment of the Gospel's prophecy, a living fusion of the Abrahamic lineages. If the Church discovers him, he will be hunted as a heretic. If the veiled cross finds him, he will be used as a puppet messiah. And so, his guardians begin to die. One by one, his tutor, his swordmaster, his mother's old confidant, found with lips sewn shut and tongues removed. The message is clear: someone knows Armand's blood is sacred. And they're closing in. Meanwhile, Layla receives a vision of her own, in the form of a letter sealed with molten wax and an impossible emblem: a crescent, a cross, and a star, joined at their center. The message reads: "Your son is the key. When the faithful are blind, the blood will see." From this moment on, Armand is no longer a child. He is a living heresy. A walking gospel. And whether he likes it or not, the world will soon try to crown him, or kill him. The betrayal of iron and incense. The rot does not come from outside. It festers within. Inside the hallowed halls of the Paris commandery, Jacques de Molay gathers his remaining council beneath the flickering torchlight of the chapter house. Each of the stone-carved Templars that stare down from above seems to pass silent judgment as tempers rise and unity splinters. But seated to Jacques' right, always calm, always precise, is Brother Matthew, the Order's Grand Archivist, keeper of forbidden texts, translator of dead languages, and a man whose smile never quite reaches his eyes. What Jacques does not know is that Matthew has already made his choice. Under candlelight in a hidden crypt beneath the Sorbonne, Matthew meets in secret with envoys of King Philip IV. The French crown, deeply indebted to the Templars, sees the Order's independence, and its rumored relics, as a threat to royal and ecclesiastical control. The Church has grown wary. The throne, desperate. And Matthew, ever the opportunist, positions himself as the bridge between fear and ambition. But it is not loyalty to king or pope that drives him. Matthew wants the gospel of fire for himself. He believes it contains a cipher, a celestial algorithm encoded in symbols and language, one that unlocks not just spiritual truth, but a map to power older than the church itself. He intends to rewrite history, not preserve it. And so, Matthew feeds secrets to both sides. He delivers copies of Templar accounts to the king's inquisitors, maps of strongholds to papal agents, and falsified letters suggesting Jacques intends to declare spiritual war on Rome. Yet even he does not act alone. For the veiled cross is watching him as well. Their true leader remains unknown, cloaked in a dozen identities, guiding events through whispers and blades. To them, Matthew is a pawn, but one they can use until the final moment. Back within the order, Jacques begins to feel the walls closing in. Letters from Rome go unanswered. Commanderies in Germany and Aragon fall silent. His most trusted commander dies in a hunting accident. Rumors spread of heresy, of gold vanishing into the hands of Saracen merchants, of relics being moved across borders under false crests. Then, the blow lands. Jacques is summoned to Paris under the guise of a meeting with the king. When he arrives, the palace guards surround him. No trial. No warning. Just chains of iron and incense-filled halls turned hostile. Matthew, watching from the shadows, clutches a satchel beneath his robes. Inside, the coordinates to Montségur, the last known resting place of the gospel. And something else, a ring. A simple silver band, engraved with an ancient symbol, a serpent eating its own tail. The betrayal is not merely political. It is personal. And in this moment, the prophecy begins to breathe. The Templars will fall not by war, but by whispers. Not by blade, but by trust shattered. The Night of Ashes. Friday the 13th, October 1307. A date that will be remembered not by the church, but by those who bleed in its shadow. The order is swift and absolute. Sealed documents, prepared months in advance under Pope Clement's silent blessing, are unsealed at dawn. Carried by black-robed inquisitors and royal marshals, they instruct every outpost in France to detain all members of the Knights Templar. The charges: heresy, blasphemy, idolatry. But no one is given time to ask questions. Across France, flames rise. Templar churches are stormed mid-prayer. Brotherhoods are dragged from their sanctuaries, stripped of their white mantles, and beaten into silence. In Paris, the commandery is breached in the dead of night. Jacques de Molay, shackled, bruised, and bloodied, is paraded through the streets like a criminal. The crowds watch, unsure whether they're witnessing justice, or something darker. Inside the royal dungeon, the tortures begin. Templars are flayed, their feet crushed in iron boots, tongues removed in symbolic acts of silencing the heresy. One young knight speaks of the gospel of fire under duress, and is drowned in a baptismal font, reborn in silence, the inquisitor sneers. But amid this orchestrated purge, Etienne, disguised as a courier, slips through the chaos with Armand, now a solemn youth bearing the burden of his lineage like a crown of thorns. Hidden beneath his robes is a piece of animal skin, branded with a coded map and two Latin words, Veritas Dormiens. Truth sleeps. They flee south under cover of smoke and grief, carrying the last hope of the order with them. Back in Paris, Jacques is brought before a pyre built not of common wood, but of Templar relics, ceremonial mantles, carved crosses, and holy texts once kissed in devotion. He is offered mercy if he recants. He smiles, his lips cracked with blood. Instead, he raises his voice, not in curse, but in prophecy. When the moon weeps blood, and stone is cracked by flame, the truth buried shall rise. And those who betrayed the cross shall be judged by fire unseen. They burn him alive that night. The wind carries his last scream across the Seine like a blade. Witnesses claim the sky darkened unnaturally. Some say they saw the moon turn red, though no eclipse had been foretold. In the days that follow, the ashes of Jacques de Molay are scattered. But something is left behind, his ring, charred but intact, found buried in the ashes with a symbol that had not been there before, a single eye, open and weeping. The fire was meant to erase the Templars. Instead, it anointed something new. The caravan of ghosts. They move like wraiths through a land that once welcomed them. Etienne leads the remnants of the Brotherhood, now no more than a half-dozen broken souls, south across a scorched and suspicious France. Every village brings new risks, children taught to fear the Red Cross, innkeepers bribed to report strangers, priests whispering rumors of the heretics with a holy child. Armand, no longer the innocent boy of prophecy, walks with the stillness of someone carrying too many names, Templar, Davidic heir, living gospel. The fire in his eyes is dimmer now. He does not sleep. At night, he sketches his dreams into the dirt, burning towers, moons dripping crimson, a city of stone that screams without sound. They travel toward Portugal, toward a coastline mapped in secrecy and myth. Long ago, the Templars foresaw their own fall and seeded escape routes through neutral lands. What they find is more than a port. It is a graveyard, and a miracle. Beneath the cliffs of Tomar, veiled by cliffs and curses, lies a hidden cove known only to Templar captains as Port of Silence, the Silent Gate. There, anchored in eerie stillness, are 5 black-sailed ships, untouched by time. Each ship bears a different relic sealed within its hull. Only one is seaworthy. Only one carries the Codex Ignis, the cipher said to unlock the full truth of the Gospel of Fire. But their arrival does not go unnoticed. She comes in silence. Valeria of Verona, once a child of plague and war, saved by Jacques de Molay himself in the ruins of an Italian village, now turned Inquisitor Primaris of the Church. Her faith in Jacques died with her family. Her new loyalty is to judgment. Clad in bone-white robes and bearing a whip woven with rosary beads, Valeria leads a rogue sect of inquisitors known as the Cruciform, sanctioned to pursue heretical fugitives beyond the boundaries of Rome. But Valeria's crusade is personal. She still wears the pendant Jacques gave her as a girl, its silver cross blackened by fire. She does not want to capture Etienne. She wants to burn what Jacques loved. As Etienne prepares the ship for departure, a storm brews. Not of nature, but of souls. The few remaining Templars argue, do they flee further west, across unknown waters? Or do they return inland and scatter, hiding what remains? It is Armand who decides. In the thunder, he speaks, if we keep running, we become ghosts. If we burn, let the fire mark a path. They sail under moonlight, unaware that Valeria has followed them to the cliff's edge, and that she has already sent word to the Veiled Cross. One of the 5 ships never leaves the port. One burns before it can be touched. One carries betrayal hidden below deck. And the last? It vanishes into the Atlantic mist, bearing with it the final pieces of a puzzle that could resurrect a world, or end it. Echoes in the Vatican. The Vatican Library is a sanctum of silence, a place where time stands still and truth is buried under centuries of dust and denial. But tonight, something stirs behind its locked doors. Dr. Celeste Navarro, linguistic prodigy and Jesuit-educated scholar of ancient texts, receives a mysterious package sealed with red wax. No sender. No note. Inside, a weathered journal bound in Templar leather, its pages filled with esoteric glyphs, marginalia in Latin and Arabic, and strange sketches of stars aligning above cracked stone. At the bottom of the first page, a name. Etienne. And the year, 1310. Celeste's hands tremble. She has studied Templar myths her entire life, but this is no legend. It's a primary account, chronicling the fall of the order and the escape of the one who carries the flame. As she deciphers the text, sleepless nights blend into fevered insights. The symbols in Etienne's journal match an old set of carvings hidden in the underground vault of Santa Maria sopra Minerva, a church built atop a ruined pagan temple. The same carvings appear on the ring Jacques de Molay was rumored to wear at his execution. She realizes the Gospel of Fire wasn't just a myth. It was a roadmap. A cipher of prophecy and blood, one that's been guiding history from behind curtains of doctrine and dogma. But Celeste is not alone in her search. A shadow lingers in the archives, Cardinal Vitali, a soft-spoken, silver-haired curator of forbidden texts. He praises Celeste's brilliance, offers her deeper access to restricted materials, even introduces her to an inner circle of theologians concerned with alternative gospels. But beneath his kind eyes lies cold calculation. Vitali is a modern disciple of the Veiled Cross, a faction that never died, merely evolved. They no longer wear armor. They wear robes, run NGOs, fund think tanks, and influence elections. And Vitali is their architect. He believes the Gospel of Fire holds the key to shaping a new global faith, one that blends truth and myth into something malleable. To him, Armand was never a messiah, just a prototype. As Celeste dives deeper, her visions begin. She sees a boy with gold-flecked eyes sketching serpents in the sand. She hears Jacques whispering in a tongue she's never learned but understands. Her dreams burn with symbols that shift like flame. In a hidden Vatican basement, she finds the unthinkable, a sealed chamber marked only with the symbol of a serpent curled around a cross. Inside, a relic wrapped in crimson cloth, one page of the Gospel of Fire, preserved and guarded by the Church all along. On it, a phrase that chills her blood, the fire sleeps within the word. When spoken, it shall divide sky from stone. And then, her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number, you've read enough, Dr. Navarro. Come with us. Or burn with them. The past is not finished. The Templars are not forgotten. And Celeste Navarro has just become the new keeper of the flame. The Heretic's Revelation. Beneath the chapel ruins of Alcobaça Monastery in Portugal, surrounded by moss-covered tombs and candlelit shadows, Celeste Navarro enters a crypt untouched since the 14th century. Guided by Etienne's journal and Armand's fragmented visions encoded in the margins, she finds a sealed stone chamber, the final vault of the Templars. Inside rests a coffin of blackened wood bound in iron and inscribed with 3 languages, Hebrew, Latin, and Arabic. It opens not with a key, but a phrase, whispered in a dead dialect only Celeste has reconstructed from Etienne's writings. The lid creaks. Inside lies not a body, but a book. The complete Gospel of Fire. Bound in flesh. Inked in blood. Every page radiates heat, as though the words themselves resist containment. It tells a story unlike any other, a life of Jesus not as Savior, but as a seeker. A man who walked with scholars of Persia, fasted in Egyptian deserts, and preached in marketplaces of Jerusalem not as the Son of God, but as a mirror of divine potential within all humans. It reveals that the miracles were metaphors. That salvation was not through a church, but through awakening. That his lineage passed not through apostles, but through blood. Celeste collapses as visions flood her mind. She sees Armand, now a grown man, exiled and wandering, living under false names. He has survived, hiding across continents, haunted by the knowledge of who he is, the final heir of the heretical bloodline, descendant of both Christ's teachings and David's house. And he's not hiding anymore. He has returned to Portugal, drawn by the same pulse that led Celeste here. They meet in the monastery's upper chambers, 2 lives separated by centuries of silence. She hands him the gospel. He doesn't read it. I don't need to, he says, touching the cover. It's already written in me. But just as they prepare to reveal the truth to the world, the betrayal strikes. Cardinal Vitali arrives, not as a Vatican diplomat, but as the voice of the veiled cross. With him, private military contractors, a media blackout team, and a satellite feed ready to intercept the coming broadcast. Vitali's face is cold, almost mournful. You were never meant to liberate the truth, he tells Armand. You were meant to personify it, long enough for us to control it. He draws a small blade, silver, curved, engraved with the Ouroboros. Celeste realizes too late, he doesn't want to silence them. He wants to martyr Armand on camera, turn him into a symbol to launch a new syncretic religion, crafted not by divinity, but design. But Celeste makes a choice. She leaps between them. The blade slashes her shoulder, but the moment of chaos is enough for Armand to grab the gospel and flee into the crypt's maze-like tunnels. The relic is now gone. The prophecy is fractured. And Vitali's plan is in ruins. Bleeding and gasping, Celeste smiles through pain. You tried to shape God in your image. You forgot, fire burns the hand that grips it too tightly. Above ground, thunder rumbles. The moon, once full, now appears darkened by a reddish shadow. A blood moon. The first in over a century. And somewhere, far from cameras and cathedrals, Armand opens the gospel, not to read it, but to let it burn. The day the world forgot. The gospel of fire is no longer a myth. It is now a storm, ripping through the corridors of power, whispered in the markets of Marrakesh, scrawled in forums, chanted on rooftops in Tehran and Berlin. Translated fragments begin surfacing online. A single verse causes markets to crash. A theologian in Rome self-immolates on live television after reading a translated passage. Across continents, faith collapses, and clings harder than ever. In America, megachurches split. In Israel, extremists call Armand a false messiah. In Mecca, pilgrims begin reciting verses from the gospel in secret. The veiled cross, now fractured and exposed, launches a coordinated misinformation campaign, flooding the internet with altered versions of the text to confuse the public, and claim control of the narrative. Celeste, now scarred and hunted, moves between safe houses. She's been offered a podium by every media outlet on earth, but she refuses. The truth, she believes, is not for the masses to consume like spectacle. It is for one soul alone to decide its fate. That soul is Armand. He has vanished, once more. Until one night, on a forgotten volcanic island in the Azores, she finds him. Living simply, alone, watching the horizon like a man who's walked through heaven and hell and still doesn't know which was which. He holds the gospel in his lap. Celeste pleads. If we release it carefully, contextualized, studied, not weaponized, we can save what's left of the world's soul. But Armand, with fire in his eyes and centuries in his blood, says only, we aren't ready. We never were. He walks with the gospel to the cliff's edge, where lava tubes stretch beneath the earth like the veins of an ancient god. The wind howls. The sky is red with storm and dust. He drops the gospel into the darkness. It is swallowed without a sound. Silence. And then, the rain. Later, Celeste writes a final note in Etienne's journal. She seals it, wraps it in cloth, and places it in the monastery vault. The truth exists. It was real. But sometimes, mercy means silence. The world moves on. Historians label the Gospel of Fire a hoax. The veiled cross retreats, rebranding, waiting for the next crack in the world's conscience. The Vatican denies everything. Conspiracy theories bloom. Faith splinters, reforms, survives. And somewhere, in a small cafe, a woman with a scarred shoulder and quiet eyes orders tea and reads a book of poetry. The waiter asks for her name. She smiles. Veritas. The screen fades to black. A single line appears, "Candle, truth is a blade. Only those who bleed for it may wield it."